just a rabbi, sold I to the merchant ships. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds.
Hey, it's Elaine. This is episode 677 of the Orange Pill Investor. And today I want to talk about some things that I've been thinking about Bitcoin. Because a lot of the things that people said I was going to learn, I didn't learn. And I learned a little bit of a different lesson than I think that they were expecting. And it may, if they were right, it's going to take me a little bit longer to learn those exact lessons, I think. What's going on, Tim? And I started wondering if hard forks won't eventually be a more accepted form of Bitcoin. Like, the only examples that we have now are failed forks. But before the block size wars, we didn't have any examples where the nodes could actually drive a change and force the miners into, into submission, unless that was the first psyop and we were only made to believe that that was possible, and that was all manipulated too. Like, was the Sith Lord basically pulling the strings on both sides, the big blockers and the small blockers, and just like for the last several thousand years, the control system always wins. That would be hilarious, and at the same time send me into crippling depression if that ended up being the case. But some people are saying, oh, Bitcoin centers fell for the psyop. It was like, what if we've been falling for that psyop for much longer than anyone suspects? And I started thinking about the charts. I think Luke posted a chart of the different forks, and it didn't even include all of the forks because you literally just couldn't fit them all on a chart that was easy to read. And of course, Bcash forked off and BSV forked off at that, so that was like a fork of a fork. And it would be kind of interesting if everyone that forks off and chooses the wrong chain gets wrecked. Like, you can just not choose. You can just hold your coins because you're going to get a free airdrop of coins on September 1st, I believe it is. And the only way to guarantee that you get wrecked is to sell the coin that you think will lose and then that wins. And so wouldn't it just be hilarious if the type of shit that I've been saying about Bitcoin treasury companies, and that they're structurally more sound than all of these other companies because the only thing that can't be disrupted is a Bitcoin balance sheet. But that could also be disrupted if some, for example, strategy inherits 800,000 airdrop coins and then sells them, and and then that coin ends up dominating 10 or 20 years from now. That would just be delicious, hilarious irony for me, because it would be like, oh, well, what do you do if uh, one chain does get co-opted, right? What if there is mining centralization, and what if there is too much centralization of coins, right? What if BlackRock gets 1 million coins and Strategy gets 2 million coins, um, and that chain just becomes just bloated and heavy and centralized and clogged up with spam? You wouldn't even have to cut off that head of the Hydra. It might just wither and fall off. It might just be too so heavy it just breaks off at the neck. And that would be an easy way for Bitcoin to just right size itself by letting the bloated centralized chain just fall off. And I think um, it's unfortunate that my boy Jeff Booth, who is the one that says that you have to participate in something outside the system, you can't clean up the control system from inside the control system, and every time you participate in the control system, you're strengthening it. And he keeps preaching about how the only way to fix it is to exit the system. However, he's been saying, oh, but we can fix Bitcoin from inside the system. Like, yeah, Bitcoin Core is corrupt, and he was running BIP1, supporting BIP 110 because uh, of the spam and the mining centralization and just all the problems that we have in Core. But when it failed, he's like, oh, no, yeah, we can fix it from the inside. He basically is ignoring all of the things that he correctly said about the control system, in that you can't beat the control system from inside the control system. You have to just exit it. And it would be too too uh, deliciously ironic if certain Bitcoin treasury companies YOLO'd into one legacy chain, sold off all their airdrops, and then got disrupted by that arrogance that they thought they could predict and manipulate and manage and co-opt um, one legacy chain. So a little food for thought there. Now, hodling both coins is the only way to make sure that you don't get wrecked. Like, you're guaranteed to win if you just hodl all your hard forks. But you are sacrificing some opportunity cost, because if the altcoin does get any type of liquidity on an exchange and you don't sell it, then you forego the opportunity to stack up on the winner if you are correct at choosing. So I haven't fleshed this out to a solid theory yet, but I think the other thing that I'll probably maybe title an episode on is the Trojan, the unintentional or the accidental or the hidden Trojan horse that everybody might not be thinking about, because everybody knows that Bitcoin's a Trojan horse to disrupt the control system and disrupt fiat. And if fiat thinks that they have somehow gained control of the legacy chain, then it would just be um, just a wonderful irony if hard forks ended up being a Trojan horse for the control system. Every time it thinks it co-ops and controls one of the heads of the Hydra, it just Bitcoin just forks off a new head and replaces it. So, and if you think, oh, well, they would never make a mistake like that, it's like, well, isn't that kind of always how it works? And didn't it seem like there's just a certain level of arrogance. I know I really love the go fuck yourself and the FAFO, fuck around and find out. You know, those are all cool, but there was a little too much confidence in the fuck around and find out crowd. Eventually, that can turn around and you know, you can aim that at yourself. So I don't really have any recommendations for anyone, but I think the safest thing to do is just hodl both coins. Um, I went and found some how-to videos. I guess there's people buying these Blake 2B SIA miners. There's an altcoin that already hashes on this Blake 2B already, and there's some SIA coin specific miners that are already in production. And Luke has said that he thinks, since that is a subset of Blake 2B, it should work fine for mining. But the safest thing to do would probably be to wait and make sure that these gold shell miners, I think it was the main one, are decent. But I was kind of hoping that I'd be able to mine with my laptop for a short period of time. Probably wouldn't last forever because there's going to be people buying ASICs already. But uh-oh, what was that? All right, but for a short period of time, I might even be possible to mine on your laptop, which would be kind of cool. That would be a little retro and throwback, but I haven't seen any videos around that yet. So I even had fantasies of like, I wonder if I could start a Bitcoin treasury company where I did covered call selling on the Bitcoin treasury companies, and then I used it to stack the Blake 2B coin. I think people are calling it BTB for Bitcoin Blake, I suppose. But I think I'm just going to pronounce it Balake from the Key and Peele skit. Balake coin. Maybe that'll catch on. Jason says, think about what you were saying, hard forks or shit coins. Well, hard forks have only ever been shit coins. And, well, and let's define shit coins, right? So I have always said, even long before BIP 110 came around, is that the main red flags for shit coins are these four things, and you could come up with some others, I suppose. But I would say that all shit coins, meaning outright scams, right? So you know that they're crypto, not Bitcoin, would be having a pre-mine, having no fixed supply, no proof of work, so generally proof of stake, and what was the last one? Oh, centralized, right? So shitcoins are going to be centralized. And hard forks, by definition, since they're forks of Bitcoin, are, you know, unless you change any one of those things, are not by definition shitcoins. But because protocols are winner take all, they become like everything but the dominant coin has to become a shitcoin because it trends to zero versus the protocol that wins. So in that sense, I would agree with you that the winning protocol, there can only be one winning protocol and everything else is a shitcoin next to it. But I think there's a little bit of a difference that can be made between shitcoins that are just inferior to Bitcoin and shitcoins that are an outright scam. Like the Ethereums, Solanas, XRP, all of those are scams. So they're also shitcoins, but they were never meant to be anything other than rug pulls. Whereas even something like a meme coin like Doge is not like a scam. It's kind of a joke, and I think that anybody that buys it kind of knows they're either buying it to sell it later or it's for the lulz or whatever. So in that sense, I would call it a shitcoin, but Doge isn't necessarily a scam. I don't think it had a pre-mine. It doesn't have fixed supply, but it is a defined inflationary, certain amount of inflation to it. So you can at least say that that's above board, like it's not a rug pull. And even some people have suggested that Bitcoin should adopt some amount of inflation. That's been making the rounds lately. Peter Todd's been saying it for a very long time, basically introducing a tax, or I think people are calling it demurrage and tail emissions and all kinds of bullshit. Um, but that's what I view spam as. To me, spam is a tax on users. It's a tax for using Bitcoin, right? You're not competing against other users. That's fair, free market, fees of the filter type shit. But every time someone wants to pay an unreasonable sum of money, right? If you're paying, and when I say unreasonable, is like, oh, well, anything anybody wants to pay for is reasonable. No. If you want to pay more than one sat for one sat, that that doesn't make any financial sense. That the math doesn't math on that. And how is a user supposed to compete with someone who's willing to spend more than one sat to send a sat, right? Like if I wanted to send someone one sat and I gotta pay 50 sats, like that doesn't make any fucking sense. You that I don't see how money could be money if it costs more than the transaction itself to send the transaction, right? So there is a limit to which the users can be expected to price out spam. Peter DeWolf, I'm sorry, Luke DeWolf, um, I believe he called spam a DDoS attack, and he's a security professional. So not necessarily trying to appeal to what's it called? Appeal to authority or whatever. But if you have some authority, you at least have a little bit of credibility, right? You're not just some asshole like me talking shit on the internet. Um, so we have only ever had examples. Well, that's not even true. So hard forks, we've actually had hard forks before. So um, if everybody goes along with the hard fork, then it just stays Bitcoin, and that has actually happened in Bitcoin before as well. But they were beneficial, I guess in general, beneficial changes that nearly everyone agreed with, and there was no chain split because everybody just migrated to the new hard fork. And so they didn't need a new name. They didn't need to be listed separately on the exchange. They didn't need replay protection because they were just good changes that everybody recognized were good changes. But at some point, I mean, it's funny because Bitcoin's been around for not even 20 years, but everybody thinks they know how it works and how it's going to continue to work for 20, 30, 40, 50, or 100 years from now. Um, so hard forks are not by definition shitcoins, but every hard fork that doesn't win and is doomed to become a shitcoin because if there can only be one dominant monetary protocol in existence. So if it loses and trends to zero forever towards the dominant chain, then yes, it you are correct. It's ends up being, becoming a shitcoin. Um, but I think it's unwise to assume that you can just sell every hard fork coin and never become disrupted. That's just too mechanical. There's not enough thinking involved there to assume that, in my opinion. And really, if you're holding both, then you're guaranteed to ride the winner to the finish line. So um, I had to go back and ask a buddy of mine who got me into Bitcoin before the block size war. So I don't know how much of an OG he is, but he used to mine like a crazy person back in the day. And as far as I know, he's never sold his Bcash airdrop that he got. It just wasn't worth the risk. It's a foregone conclusion now, but back then, I didn't know what was going to happen. It wasn't clear, and I really didn't care. I was kind of a shitcoiner back then anyway. But it wasn't clear to me or anybody that I was talking to that Bitcoin Cash couldn't become the dominant protocol. Um, so you can you can make your bets if you want to. I'm not like I said, there is an opportunity cost for not making a prediction, right? Because if you don't take advantage of the value that they have when they do have some value, then it will end up going to zero later, and you've missed your opportunity to sell that coin when it had any type of value whatsoever. But I think you definitely have to at least acknowledge that there's some risk. It's not a foregone conclusion that no hard fork can ever disrupt the legacy chain. All right, Sandeep says individuals may sell one of the forked coins, institutions and corporations will not. They will just ignore the forked coin. That was my assumption as well, but I did hear that people were checking to see ahead of the mandatory signaling if there was a market, if there was anybody that was willing to sell the forked coins. It might have been a little bit difficult because the chain split was not expected by the BIP 110 side. And so, basically they were just hoping that everyone would flip and there would be only one chain. There wouldn't be a chain split. And if that had happened, then yeah, anybody buying BIP 110 coins, well, that's just like a hypothetical BIP 110 coin, because at that point, like, well, what would you even be buying? And some people actually suggested that's one of the reasons that BIP 110 didn't work. The anti-BIP 110ers were even suggesting this, is that because there was no liquid futures market and people were not able to like bet sizable positions, and a lot of BIP 110ers were not actually willing to stake losing their Bitcoin. That was one of the reasons that they were confident that BIP 110 wouldn't successfully activate. All right, so with that being said, some stuff's moving around today. Bitcoin is up, so that's always good news. Oh, you know what? One thing that I should probably look at was the BCH price chart. So, interestingly enough, the block size wars happened like right before the pump in 2017, right? So Bcash lit up and went to almost 3,000 a share, or 3,000 a coin. And I guess at least in wait, what does it say in July? I thought Bcash forked in September. Anyway, it was around 400 and went to 3,000, so not quite a 10x, but it did well. And it's going to be really weird. Like even if the BTB, if that's what it's being called, you know what? I wonder if I wonder what the BCH to BCH BTC ratio. I don't know what I'm clicking on here. Ten years gets me to 20. It doesn't go back that far. That's dumb. So the Bitcoin chart has been. Why doesn't this go all the way back to 2017? Okay, so this one's BCH to BTC. Let's do max. So it looked like during that pump, BCH actually did well at some points, and then it's obviously just been trending to zero ever since. Even during the, I guess there was a brief spike here and there, but trending towards zero. But there could be some opportunities for this to kind of flip back and forth if we do pump in 2027, 2028. It's possible that these two chains could look like this. I don't expect any kind of like flippening, right? Like it's not like BTB is going to flip Bitcoin in the next 2 years or anything. If it ever did flip, it would, I think it would be because Bitcoin just suffocated from its own weight, potentially. And, you know, I think sometimes we think of Bitcoin as being like a living creature. And we thought, oh, well, this thing is immortal. But what if it's not? What if it has to, you know, it has some kind of lifespan, and then the dominant chain withers and dies and a new chain replaces it. We haven't even been doing this for 20 years yet. So I think it's not a foregone conclusion what Bitcoin is or what it will do. So I think making too many assumptions puts people at risk. So I would just be cautious. All right, with that being said, let's take a look at the account. I'm hanging on by a thread of green for year to date on the main account. Um, Basically break even. And I started to talk about it yesterday, but I think I trailed off that thread. Is that year to date, I've done well avoiding losses because all of the strategy that I had all year long is down like 30%, 27% now with this pump. And so to be at break even is like, okay, I wiped out 30% losses with all the covered call selling that I've done just in the last 8 months. So that's good. But if this is the time for the bull to start, then the amount of just intense, aggressive covered call selling is going to impede the upside gains, right? If I continue to just sell at the market covered calls, my assumption is that eventually they would just get wrecked. And like this, what, up 16% in a week? This can happen 3-4 weeks in a row. Like when we had 2024, $50 a share, boom, 200 a share. Within, what was that, a month and a half, 2 months maybe? The price of the stock goes up 4x in, let's see, January to March. Yeah, 2 months, 4x. I'm not saying our strategy will be up. I'm not saying strategy will be, what did we bottom out at? 75, 80 a share. The low was $80 a share. So, you know, will we be 320 in 4 weeks or in 8 weeks? I'm not necessarily saying that, but if it did happen, then the types of covered calls that have prevented me from losing so much money this year would prevent me from making a bunch of money on the way up. Um, So I'm kind of tempted. The optimal way to play options from a seller's perspective is after pumps like this, you sell the calls or sell call credit spreads. And after the dips, you sell the cash secured puts. It's going to maximize the premium selling. But the way that I generally do things, it's hard for me to get out. It's hard for me to not sell premium, since that's kind of like how I got my start. If you can manage it and be disciplined and, just take all of the gains and then sell covered calls after the pumps, that would probably maximize your profits and reduce some of your lost sleep. If you sold the 87 like I did, you're probably crying yourself to sleep. So I'm kind of used to it, and I've been beefing with Sailor anyway. So if I lose my strategy shares, it doesn't really matter to me. I've kind of moved on to Strive. Oh shit, Strive's at 16. So I even missed $3.50 per share here, right? So I took my guaranteed 50 cents a share in premium and missed out on 350. But it just means I'll have whatever 4,500 shares at the end of the week or something. I don't really mind. I'm just kind of used to it. All right, so Tesla's only been on for a day. I shouldn't really need to do anything with these positions. This was the hedged position that I took off. Still got some debit spreads, and then I added this one long call. It says that my trade price is 90, and so it looks like I've lost 4,500 bucks on this, but I actually hedged this out and sold it for like 14, and kind of rode Tesla back down. So this isn't really as bad as it looks. But no reason for me to make any changes or mess with any of those positions in Tesla at this moment. I think I had 2 SpaceX positions. I took one off when it pumped and probably rolled this one out and rolled it up to the 130. It's about to go in the money again. And this could just keep happening throughout the unlock period, because every so often there are SpaceX IPOs that shares are becoming unlocked. And depending on what prices they got, I don't know what the institutions got, right? Maybe if they got in at 100 or 75 a share, they're happy to just dump all their shares on the market at 130, even though it's a $5 discount from the retail IPO. They could be just dumping on retail. I really have no idea. But I would expect a lot of volatility on SpaceX. So far, it seems like there's a ton of support at 100. If we break below that, it could go to 70 or 80, easy peasy. But I would consider selling cash secured puts at 100 anytime it dips below the IPO price. So let me see. Maybe it'll be a good chance for me to put in another 43 DTE. I try to collect 6% of the underlying price and then assume I'll capture 1/6 of that per week. So I would actually have to sell 780. I would have to sell probably the 125, which would put my cost basis at about 117 if I got assigned. I don't hate it, but maybe I'll wait and see if this comes down another $10 a share before I jump into another position. I do have the buying power for it, so I kind of feel like I'm under invested right now. And why do I have like pathetic theta? Oh, because my Strive calls, covered calls, are basically have no extrinsic value left in them. So I'll have to deal with those positions. All right, I got the 300 shares of SATA. That's my dry powder for if we have a reversal and I want to YOLO into some cheap treasury companies. All right, strategy. I already rolled out the 36 DTE. There's a little bit of extrinsic value here. It's not much, but I'll probably try to play the roll to your right game. With this pump, though, I'm tempted to throw on a call credit spread. If the Kelly criterion formula looks decent. So let's sell the 135 by the 145. 26 delta. No, I can only get paid $1.50 for this. I generally, on a $10 spread, I multiply the delta times 1,000, and if I can get paid at least that amount, it makes sense according to the Kelly criterion formula. So I would need to get paid at least $260 for this. So I don't really like that, unfortunately. All right, so Strive. I sold a bunch of the 1250s. These damn things are 99 delta now, so there's no extrinsic value. So that means there's no reason for me to hold this until tomorrow. They expire tomorrow, but there's no reason to hold these. So if I roll the strikes up, let's see how far I have to go to actually get some extrinsic value into them. So to get 13 cents, I would have to roll them up to the 15 strike. That would get me a little bit of extrinsic value. It would kind of make it worth holding, but that would cost me 11 grand. So how many shares would I need to peel off at $12 a share? 11, oops, divided by 12.5. So I need to peel off like 888 shares, but I would also be getting what? Oh no, that's including the credit. So I need to change this to about 40. Oop, let me reshare without volume. All right, make me pay a little bit more for that. All right, sweet. So now the remaining, let's do balanced. I'm going to take off the remaining 12 calls and sell 1,000 shares. That should give me about the 12 grand I need. Sweet. So I'm basically selling some Strive at the top. I'm participating in that bounce and reduced my exposure to it. So if Strive, crashes back down to $10 a share or something, then I don't get wrecked. Now the call debits, I paid 50 cents for those, and I can sell them for 68. Wonder if I should do that as well. How many do I have? I've got 20. That's only about 20% though. Let's do 5 of them. I doubt I'm going to get filled here. Okay. So I made a little quick, what, 10-15% on 5 of those debit spreads. That's fine. So that bumped up my theta dramatically. So instead of making like $100 overnight, because there was no um, extrinsic value left in these strive positions, um, I paid to roll 40 of the 50 up, but then I just let basically 1,000 of those shares get called away instead of waiting. I did it today instead of waiting for tomorrow. Now, next week is going to be interesting because I will be on vacation. I could trade on my phone, I suppose, but my brother's also a streamer. He's mostly a gamer, um, but he's also a videographer. And I could probably live stream Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in his studio. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'll be at a lake house. So I probably won't be able to roll on Friday next week. So I could just do my weeklies and let them expire next week. And if a if a shitload of contracts get called away, it's just whatever. I'll just come back in on Monday and buy them back. Or I could push these out 2 weeks, which is also reasonable, and then just come back and start trading them. I think I fly back on the 1st, September 1st. I think I fly back, so that might be a Monday. So I might not be able to stream until September 2nd. Is that Labor Day or Veterans Day or something? Anyway, something's coming up, I think. What's up, dude face? Enshittification has come to Bitcoin. You either see it or you don't. The premium is still there, but that may change when everyone sees what's behind the curtain. It's possible. I just think it's so big and there's so much huge network effects. I think it would probably take 10, 20 years for that to happen. Maybe it'll be another gradually then suddenly type thing. I don't know. It does. There are some other interesting things about what Luke's going to do with the coin. So apparently, there's like a laundry list of things that everyone already agrees are problems with Bitcoin, but they're kind of on the shelf because they require a hard fork, and it's like so hard to get hard forks done. And it's like, well, fuck it. If we're already doing a hard fork, then we'll just put in all of these fixes. Which almost kind of like reminds me of Strive a little bit because Strive is doing what Strategy's doing, but has a cleaner balance sheet. They only have the prefs with no convertible bonds, and like they've got the daily dividends, so they're like a better version of Strategy in a sense. And Blake 2B, since they got to do a hard fork anyway, are putting in all of these fixes for problems with Bitcoin that can't be done on Bitcoin because they're just kind of sitting there staying unfixed because hard forks are so hard to get through. I think there's a problem with like pre-SegWit wallets and just all. Anyway, I think it was Chris Guida mentioned on a Spaces that they're just going to throw all of these fixes in that Bitcoin may never get, um, because it's just so easy to do in since you have to do a hard fork anyway. It the Blake 2B hard fork may be a disaster. I have no idea, but the one thing that I need to explore more is kind of like with the block size war, why is it that the scammers left, but with the spam war, like the scammers stayed. So you had, I don't even know if Roger Ver was a scammer necessarily, but the biggest villain of all of Bitcoin history is probably fake Toshi, right? He pretended to be Satoshi, even sued Hodlonaut over saying that he wasn't Satoshi and dragged him through the courts. And that motherfucker came out against BIP 110. So like there's just this long list of scammers that came out against BIP 110. And so instead of the block size war where the scammers left, like the scammers stayed on legacy this time. Um, I know Johnny was critical of me trashing Adam back every time I get a chance, but as far as I'm concerned, he had an unsatisfactory explanation of whether he did or didn't go to Epstein Island. Um, he's partnering up with um, I can't remember exactly who was the guy. Anyway, there's some allegations that the people he's forming a company with, the guy's like a felon and a scammer. Um, and I think I can't remember if that guy was named in Epstein's files, but this I believe it's Brian Bishop, who's the guy that banned Luke from the GitHub. Um, definitely was in the Epstein files. He was like trying to get money from Epstein for designer babies and shit, doing like DNA designer babies. Um, so NVK, his company, was affiliated with the Cold Card hack, and he was against BIP 110. Um, Peter Todd is the one that's been talking about tail emissions and demirage and lifting the 21 million cap. Like all of these people, all of the shitcoiners, Jameson Lopp, Udi Werthenheimer. Udi's the one that did the fake news that BIP 110 was delayed, and I guess the algorithms weren't smart enough to figure out that that was fake news, and so that was trending on frickin' X. So like all of the scammers um, are staying on legacy. Like, isn't that weird? Back in the day, we used to push the scammers out. Like all the shitcoiners were driven away. Vitalik had to go and start Ethereum because Bitcoin wouldn't play ball with his shitcoinery. So like we have this long history of being hostile to scammers, and then they have to go and scam outside of Bitcoin. But now all the scammers are like making themselves at home, and it's Luke who has been the one that's been pushed out. So you got this, instead of block size wars where the scammers got pushed out and the solid Bitcoiners stayed, it's Luke that's getting pushed out and all of the scammers are staying. So there's just a weird, unsettling, creepy heebie-jeebies that I get from that. Um, that's pretty unscientific, but it doesn't seem like that's not significant. And if it is significant, but Bitcoin still wins, then my whole revenge fantasy against the control system was for nothing. And fiat just wins again. And like, okay, fuck it, I'll die a fiat slave like everyone else. But I still have some high hopes for humanity. But if Bitcoin in whatever sound money form it ends up being doesn't win, then I don't know. Humanity probably doesn't deserve to get off the planet anyway. Fuck the Mars colony. Dude Face says you're right. I'm leaning towards your maybe right now. My mind is open to being changed. Yeah, I'm just keeping an open mind. I'm actually tempted to run some mining on Blake 2B. Um, but I'm also, I mean, I guess I'm kind of being a little bit of a bitch because I'm not ready to burn the ships behind me. Um, Like, I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin and YOLO into Blake 2B coin either. I would have mad respect for somebody who made that kind of a decision. I'd be like, holy shit, you got to fucking steel balls. But I would never recommend that, because if they get fucking wrecked, like, I don't want to be responsible for recommending that somebody do something like that. I'm sure as hell not doing it, right? Like, if Blake 2B fizzles and fucking withers away into nothing, I'll still have my Bitcoin stack, right? I'm not burning the ships behind me. So maybe that makes me uh, a hypocrite in some way, but what are you gonna do? Like, nobody, if I get wrecked, nobody's gonna come in and feed my family for me and make my house payment. So I don't give financial advice, but I will give this amount of advice. Treat yourself like the most, you treat you and your family like the most important thing in your life, because no one else is gonna. So you might as well look out for number one. And if somebody wants to call me a hypocrite for not selling all my Bitcoin for Blake coin, they can do that, and it will not bother me in the slightest. I will not feel slightly ashamed. No apology will be forthcoming, so do not hold your breath. I will do whatever it takes to make sure that my family's okay in the end, and I don't have to put out some kind of fucking, what is it called? The fundraiser. What's the fucking thing called? Where people, anyway, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm talking about. Um, trying to raise money for some bullshit. I will try to remain a sovereign, sovereign person as far as I can help it. Let's see, Doofus is exactly my thoughts. So many sus actors in the space right now. Cognitive dissonance is what I call it. At some point, everyone sees it. Man, I, I, I hope so, but I don't think a lot of people will, which makes me wonder, or makes me kind of suspect that they will be blindsided. And it might not be Blake, it might be 10, 20 years from now, but if the legacy chain gets so corrupt that it just becomes obvious to everyone else, then all of the Bitcoin treasury companies and all of the scammers and spammers will get wrecked, like, because they just won't see it coming. And that's how everybody gets disrupted, right? That's how every single monopoly has ever gotten disrupted, is because they think they're too big to fail. They think they've won. They've got the network effects, and they can just be arrogant, and they have this monopoly until they don't. So it might not happen this time. Maybe it'll be a hard fork 20 years from now. But if, and that's why I said that Bitcoin is on the clock right now, right? You didn't accept the BIP 110er's solution for the centralization problems and the corruption that has been infiltrating core. You didn't accept that solution. Well, guess what? Now it's TikTok, you're on the clock to come up with your own solutions. And, Sailor's Bitcoin Consortium, I don't think is going to be up to the fucking task. So, yeah, they'll probably be able to come up with something that will keep Bitcoin safe from quantum, but that was always going to be in the cards anyway. Like, everyone knows it's a risk, and everyone was going to be working towards it. So I don't really think that was ever, like, it's a real threat, but because everyone knows it's a real threat, it wasn't a real threat, because it's going to be taken care of before it ever becomes a problem. It's always the thing that you don't look for that's the threat, which reminds me of the cold card thing again. Everybody thought that having your coins on the exchange was the real threat, and all you got to do is get them off the exchange and into cold storage. Now you're not in the threat anymore. Oh, well, we didn't pay attention to the fucking entropy in the seed phrase creation, and that was the real threat. So it's always the thing that you're not aware of that's the real threat. So we shall see. All right, I think I addressed everything in here, but I don't know. I just feel like I How did my theta drop to 378 already? Isn't it like at 600? So if I did want to add some of these strive positions back in, even kind of at the what could be the top, I can go out 45 DTE. Maybe sell like 6 times, would be 70. Yeah, I could sell like some 13s. So even if we get a correction here, what would this do? It's only gonna give me like a 10 theta. Yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait to see if there's a correction on this. I guess I could sit on some more SATA. It's actually over 100. Let's see if they'll sell it to me at 100. Maybe I won't go too crazy. Let's do 50. And that's just a limit order as well. If this doesn't fill, that's fine. Oh, so my theta is like ping ponging around. I don't know why. All right, Dudeface says that's when most will see it, when it hits them in the face. Exactly. Yeah, and I hate to say it this way, but I kind of hope that B2B does wreck Bitcoin. Um, that will probably it probably seems like I'm attacking Bitcoiners. Like, well, wait a minute, you want me to get wrecked? Well, no, because you're about to get an airdrop of the other coin. So if you hodl both, you can't get wrecked. But it's just kind of like, if only one protocol can dominate and win, well, I kind of hope it's it's B2B. Um, it's a better protocol from all of the changes that they want to make. And so I hope the better protocol wins. But if only one can win, like even Mechanic was saying, oh, I think both of these can survive and do okay. I'm like, that's not what I think. I think one has to win and one has to die. And I just have a nice little revenge fantasy that this one wins and dominates. And anybody who fucks around and finds out and thinks that they can predict the winner and and sells the winner and buys the loser. That's kind of how it works. All right, Tesla already rolled out to get some extra extrinsic value here. It's still in the money. Every 2 to 3 weeks, I'll try to roll it up a couple strikes. SpaceX. Okay, so I don't have any free capital, but I rolled. Let's see, my trade price is 130. So I'm basically break even on the shares, but I've collected some premium here. So this is just fine. And then Strive, I'm in a similar situation here where I'm not earning any extrinsic. Well, it says 15. Oh, but that's for 30. That's for 30 contracts. So again, I'll probably have to take off. What did I take off? About 20% of those other ones. Oh, actually, I have been able to capture some upside here because I was selling the 15 strikes. So plenty of extrinsic value there. I don't need to deal with those. And then I could make $100, $150 here if I sell this. What is that? About a 60% profit. in 6 days. So that's kind of cool. So I could sell this to fund rolling a couple of these, but then I don't have any upside protection anymore. So let's take off, let's close like 7 of these maybe. And that should give me the cash I need to roll strikes up until there's a meaningful amount of premium, which is at the 15. Right at the expected move. I think that's reasonable. Oh, I think I took way too many. Oh, that's about right. So that's going to leave me with 3 grand to spend. It's not enough to really do anything with SpaceX. So I can, what, 3 grand? So I could probably sell 3. Nope, that's 3,900. I can go out. Oops. 45 DTE, 2,900. So I could sell 2 of the 13 strikes. Oh, can I change that to 2? No. All right. I only did 1. I'll do another one once I get this to fill. And then I'll have an idea for what the price is going to be as well. Damn. Thought this would have filled by now. 75 cents? Okay. Boom. Sell another one. You're really making me smash the bid here? Okay. So now I've got $478 to spend. Oh, you know what? What's down the most? So SpaceX. What is the cheapest long call I can buy? I should have bought this damn thing when SpaceX was at 100 a share. But let's go out. Holy shit. Okay, even at the 450 strike, that's too expensive. Too expensive. 666 DTE. Anybody superstitious? All right, so I can almost get there. 478. 484. I guess I could buy. Yeah, it's kind of expensive. I don't need to do that, do I? No, let's cancel that. Let's just take the 400 bucks and buy SATA, and I'll just stash a little bit of dry powder. Oh, I think I overpaid. I think my trade price is 101 penny. Where is it? Oh, my trade, I got filled at 100. Perfect. And I have no dry powder left. I like it. All right, so with the kind of spending account, I will probably, you know what? I'm just going to take all of these off because I want to see. There's no extrinsic value in here, so I'm just taking all of these off. And that gave me what, like 7 grand or something? Yeah. So now I want to put these back on, but I'm going to do what I said I was going to do with the other ones. And let me just see if I put 6 of these back on, what's that going to do? that's going to reduce my option buying power by 4 grand, which is fine, but it's not going to reduce my cash balance at all. So it's going to be kind of weird. I think I got fills at 75 cents on the other ones. Okay. And so now I've got an extra 2 grand here to buy SATA. Oh, I already have it in. Duh. All right, so I'm not going to go crazy with it though. I'm not going to spend the whole 2,000 because I don't want to be like riding the edge of a margin call. So there's a little bit of gravy here. And so basically I had 6 covered calls on SATA. Now I'm going to be collecting dramatically less premium. I think I was collecting like 3 or 4% per week. You know what? Maybe I should do like a 50-50. This is going to be easier for me to monitor while I'm on vacation anyway. I literally just don't even have to look at this for 43 days. So this is actually going to be more convenient for me being on vacation anyway. So actually, I think that's fine. We have 3 more shares just to make this in 15. I'm guessing my other shares or my other request filled. Oh, still working? Oh, okay, there we go. Like, why didn't that fill? All right, so we're good to go in this account. All right, the 5K account, kind of back on track. Okay, so my 14 puts have no extrinsic value in them. So it does make sense that I just buy these back for next to nothing. So let's do all 4 contracts. I'm gonna buy them back for a penny, hopefully. And I didn't get a fill, so I'm gonna have to put this back in for 2 cents maybe. 3 cents. Okay. So that gives me my for 5,600 bucks back. And I wonder if I should do the same thing so that I don't have to deal with this next week. I can just sell puts 43 DTE. What did I sell? The 13. So if I sell 4 of these, that gets me to 5,200 bucks. I don't think I have enough to do 0.76. Oops. Let me do 4 of them. Of course, it doesn't want to fill. All right. 75 cents. So actually I got paid 300. All right, let's see how much buying power I have left over now. And if I sell my 10 SATA, I might be able to sell an extra. Yep, I got 700. I need another 600 bucks to sell another 13. So I'll sell 6 shares. And I think that'll give me enough buying power to sell one more. Wait, didn't I sell the Oh, fuck. Did I sell the 13s for tomorrow? Tell me I didn't sell the 13s for tomorrow. Now, there wouldn't have been any premium at 13. All right, where's my positions? Okay. Yeah, I sold 4 13s. Let me just click on it and I'll just open another one. I'll flip it from buy to close to sell to open. One more. 2.75 cents. All right. Let's make sure I didn't overspend my margin. Otherwise, I'll peel off another share of SATA. I think this should be pretty close. Yep. 6,500 in options collateral, 6,587 in cash. So I have $87 to spare. Perfect. Yes, I know I'm selling cash secured puts at a Strive local top, but even if this crashes back down to $11 a share, my cost basis would be like 12.25. So not the end of the world. I could totally turn around and sell covered calls at the 13 or the 14 and be fine. And I don't have to watch this while I'm on vacation. All right, let's see. Dudeface says it's kind of interesting the timing of this proof of work change as the whole world economy seems to be rerouting a new fork of its own. Maybe it's meant to be. Yeah, what do you mean by that? And to a certain extent, I was kind of wondering if Iran isn't winning partly because, or maybe a good reason they're winning is because they have been mining Bitcoin and they can just continue to transact. I'm sure they're spending down their Bitcoin reserves to keep the lights on, but that's another network effect that that's 1 point scored for legacy Bitcoin in that sense. Like Blake 2B would have to grow significantly in order to become attractive to state actors again, which would be just kind of like the little guy winning all over again, right? Imagine some third world country starts mining B2B and 50 years from now they're the the biggest economy on the planet or something. It's just kind of like seems like Bitcoin all over again. So it's a romantic idea, I admit, but I like the idea of it. All right, so I like this. I don't have to deal with this for another couple of weeks. Um, what did I set myself? Let me just. Um, okay, so Tesla's already rolled out 45 days. I don't have to look at Tesla. SpaceX is out 36 days. I don't have to look at that. SATA's just SATA, it does daily stuff. This is rolled out. So Strive is the only thing that I really need to look at tomorrow. And so I can roll out to next Friday and just let shares get called away if they get called away. Or I can take these out 45 DTE as well so that I don't have to deal with it. So I'm set up pretty good to go on vacation, which I think is another pro in the option sellings column is like, I don't have to day trade this. When I tell people, I just, people always want to ask you what you do when you meet them, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't really work anymore. I just play around in the stock market. And they're like, oh, you do day trading. I'm like, no, there's way too much time and stress involved in staring at a computer screen for 8 hours a day. Like, there's no fucking way I'm doing that. So, but like, I can't I've been explaining this shit for 677 episodes. I can't explain to people in 5 minutes what I'm doing here, even though it's not that hard. Like, I mean, I guess I could explain it in 5 minutes. I could probably explain it in 15 seconds. Buy some shares, sell a covered call above the share price. Wait, like you could just do that. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's so many nuances to little things. But it's so convenient. I guess was where I was headed with that before I got distracted. If I don't want to sell the weeklies or, Teslas 3 times a week, I don't have to. I want to go on vacation for 2 weeks, a month, bam, 45 DTEs. Set it, forget it. I could even leave my phone at home and just not worry about it. I go camping, no cell service, doesn't matter. Portfolio is whatever it is when I get back. Take a month off. I'd have 2 weeks left on my expirations. Roll them before gamma risk kicks in. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, crazy shit could happen to my portfolio's value in that 4 months or 4 weeks, but nothing catastrophic would really happen to that contract. And even if something catastrophic did happen to the contract, even if I was watching it every day, there's nothing I can fucking do about it anyway, because you lock into the contract at the open, and you're in the middle of it. Really isn't a whole lot you can do. So